new week, new sports, and yeah, drama. As advertised, basically, which is good going forward. Lot of interesting stuff happened. I mean, let's get into it. UFC 260, baddest man on the planet title, aka the heavyweight championship of the world. I mean, it's a fascinating fight on paper. You got the champion, long-time champion, considered the greatest of all time, the greatest heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic, American, beating everyone. Recently he's on a massive win streak, and he just ran into who people thought was the scariest. I mean, he is basically the scariest heavyweight, well, the scariest fighter of all time. Francis Ngannou, 6'5", 260 pounds, just massive dude, scary punching power. So these two fought before, and the champion at the time was Stipe, and he was the underdog. That's how scary Francis Ngannou was. Even though he was, people saw Stipe as probably he was getting towards being the greatest at that time, because at heavyweight it's tough to keep winning, because everyone's got massive punching power, everyone's scary, and one punch can change the whole fight. As opposed to the smaller weights, there's a lot more technique, a lot more cardio needed and volume. So Stipe and Ngannou fought before. Stipe survived that first round where Ngannou's the scariest, and then shut him down for the rest of it. Made him look bad, really. So everyone kind of thought, okay, cool, Francis Ngannou's just a big puncher. He'll go away and do his thing. So Stipe had a trilogy with Daniel Cormier, 1, 2 out of 3 of those, flying through, and then here comes Ngannou again. So after Ngannou lost, he went off, did his thing, kept winning, and then came back again Saturday night, and destroyed him, basically. Like it was, so Ngannou, I think, is 33, 34. Stipe's 38 now, which for heavyweight isn't too bad, because you always got the power late on. They say it's the last thing to go, but it was crazy, and it was as people thought. The theme of this video is as advertised. It was as people hoped it would be. Thought it could end up going that way, but it was scary stuff. Like the knockout was, go check the knockout out. Folded like a deck of chairs. It was, interesting. Now, not only is that interesting, but now the heavyweight is the scariest guy again. Whereas before they probably didn't see Stipe Miocic as the scariest guy, but he was definitely a good fighter. Now they've got to fight the baddest guy to be the champion now, and the guy that they want to fight is the who most people consider to be the GOAT, Jon Jones, who was the light heavyweight champion for forever, and now he's bulking up, trying to get up to heavyweight. He's got to put on a little bit more weight, because light heavyweight's 205 pounds maximum, so you can't weigh more than that. And heavyweight you can weigh up to 265, so it's just too big a gap to just jump up straight away. So he's bulking up, doing it the right way. That could be, on paper, the biggest fight in UFC history if it happens. There's some problems going on at the minute with money, obviously. Jon Jones is not happy with how much they want, which is, he's got a point. I think Dana, the promoter of the UFC, he's trying to get that fight in there, just to try and pay as little as possible. So it might not happen. We might get robbed of an all-time great fight, but if it does happen, watch this space, because that's going to be an incredible fight. Long story short, Francis Ngannou is here. We'll see how he goes on, because he's learned a lot since the first fight to the second fight on Saturday. So if he gets much better, it could be real problems. Well, it's already real problems for the heavyweights, but very impressive performance. There's a couple of impressive performances. There's another guy who you might start hearing about, Sean O'Malley. He's kind of in layman's terms, he's kind of a Conor McGregor style character. He's very flashy, very confident, very exciting to watch. He just came off a loss before end of last year, I think it was. and now he's back, looking very impressive. So, watch this space for him, because he's going to be quite an exciting character, very exciting character that the UFC really likes. So he's going to keep improving and improving. Another interesting tournament that happened on the weekend is the World Golf Championship. So they call it the World Golf Championship. It's obviously it sounds like the World Cup, but it's one of those tournaments. It's similar to the Players Championship. So they've got all these events that they just invite just the best players in the world. But other tournaments they invite people, and it's not all about rankings. These ones they invite the best 64 players in the world, and they all play off. The reason why this one was interesting is because it's a match play tournament. So normally you just go around, you shoot, you go around with the partner, you shoot your score, and whatever you are, you add up at the end of the 4 days, and whoever's got the lowest score wins. But this tournament is a one-off. They don't do too many of these match play tournaments. They do it in the Ryder Cup, which is why people like the Ryder Cup a lot. It's 1 versus 1. So it's me versus you. Whoever scores the lowest on the hole wins the hole, and they go 1 up. And then obviously, you've got 18 holes. So, if you're so much up with not a lot of holes to go, you manage to win. So it's a very interesting dynamic. I think the casual fan that's why they like the Ryder Cup, because it's more dramatic, because things can happen. If you go into the water, your opponent can win the hole, rather than you got time to make up the shots back, if that makes sense. There's a lot more pressure on every single shot, and you play strategically. Very, very different to how they normally play. The winner was Billy Horschel. It's an interesting talk, because obviously the top 64, and they all get grouped into world rankings. Only one top 20 guy made it out of the groups, which probably is testament to how much pressure there is. All the best players in the world, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, all these guys, didn't even make it out of the groups. So only one guy, John Rahm, made it out of the group stages. It does really show that it's just whoever shows up on the day could go ahead and win. So yeah, Billy Horschel's won. I think he came second in the first of the 4. So there's only 4 of these World Golf Championship events. So he's obviously got a second already, and now he's just won on the weekend. So he's flying along nicely. But I think definitely I definitely like the match play format. Every now and again, obviously you don't want it too much, because it'll get a bit too intense. But I like having a match play format in there, especially with the best players in the world, because it's like normally you just get to go play, and then if the good player doesn't show up, you don't really see much about him. But if they have to play each other, they have to show up. So really interesting. As advertised, probably doesn't apply to that one. I guess the intrigue surrounding it, I guess you would have said you don't know who's going to win, because the best player doesn't always win those match play tournaments like in the Ryder Cup. But the main event was the Bahrain Grand Prix. Literally, that is a crazy race. Crazy race. Like, we obviously all the preview I did the other day. No one really knew what was going to happen until it got to practice sessions on Friday, and then Max Verstappen and the Red Bull was gone, like flying. Mercedes were good. They were if anything, they were better than what people thought, because they probably thought there's a bit of a gap. But it was clearly Red Bull, Mercedes a cut above everyone. But Red Bull were flying. Practice 1, practice 2, practice 3, flying through. And then obviously Saturday, the qualifying, where it's, all the marbles are out. Verstappen beats Hamilton by almost half a second, which never happens. And then we're all thinking, this could be a one driver championship this year. The race again, it did early on. It's always interesting when pre-season is, like I said, you never know what's going on. Clearly, Mercedes were sandbagging a bit. I mean, Hamilton was saying, we made a lot of progress, but I think they were just holding a bit back. They probably did make a lot of progress. They changed a lot of things. They were tweaking a lot of things, but I don't think it was. I think they were closer than what they thought. But yeah, the race was very dramatic. Early on, we could tell that Verstappen was quick. They have different strategies, so I won't go into too much, but they got different strategies. So one stays out a bit longer to have fresh tyres at the end, to be quick. And the other one, Hamilton, pitted earlier to try and get track position and try and hold. If you can keep your tyres in good condition, you'll be fine. Which Hamilton is one of the best at doing. So it became clear that after the last pit stop, Verstappen had the fresh tyres, the quicker car, and it's literally, I mean, the commentators were getting really excited because it was like, this is what we expected, a straight fight between them. And the two of them were gone. It wasn't even like everyone else. The two of them were just off in the distance. So Hamilton was leading, Verstappen was chasing him down for 15 laps. Finally, I mean, you know, with about 10 laps to go, it was about a 3-second gap. Hamilton was leading by about 3 seconds. And I'm thinking there's absolutely no way Verstappen's not going to win this race. His car's so quick. And then Hamilton, I don't see him do this much. Makes a mistake out of one of these corners, loses all that time. Verstappen's all over him. They get to the fourth corner there's only 3 laps to go at this point. Fourth corner, and there's a thing called track limit. So you probably hear this quite a lot. So all these racetracks, obviously there's, you know, the edge of the racetrack. They've got white lines and they've got the little the bollard things that tell you where the edge is. So a lot of racetracks, they have kind of they impose track limits because the car can go wider than the racetrack allows, and you can actually gain some time by taking not a shortcut. It's more of a long cut, but you can keep speed. You have to slow down as much. So if you're able to go a little bit wider, carry more speed, that's an advantage. So a lot of these racetracks, there's some corners where you can gain a good advantage by just going wide, not actually trying to turn at all. So all race long they were saying, you know, as long as you're not gaining an advantage, you can go wide, but we're going to keep an eye on it because obviously you can't overtake and you can't gain too much of an advantage going wide. So both cars are doing this, and they were told throughout the race, you know, you're not allowed to do this. So here we get to turn 4, where they're all going wide, and it's neck and neck. They both go round the corner. Verstappen goes very wide at turn 4, overtakes Hamilton off the track. Off he goes, and then the race director says, you got to give the place back because it's illegal. So then Verstappen has to give Hamilton the place back, races back on, another 3 laps. Hamilton just about holds him off, wins by 0.7 of a second, which again is just, in Formula 1 terms, that's nothing. That's like, you know, right behind him. Verstappen wasn't too happy. They say controversy, you might see the word controversy out. It isn't controversial really. It's quite clear you're not allowed to go off the track. But Verstappen was thinking, you know, if I didn't let him go, the stewards would have given him a penalty, the time penalty, which would have dropped him back. And he said, well, I could have made up that time, so that penalty wouldn't have mattered. But he would have got a bigger penalty than what he thought he was going to get. He thought he was only going to get 5 seconds. But one of the race stewards came out and said you would have got a 10-second penalty for that. So listen, it's very exciting it's exciting for everyone, whether you're a fan of whoever or you're just a neutral. So every race now, clearly, well, apart from the fact that everything so far has been on the same track. So normally they do testing in Spain, in Barcelona, and then they start the season in Australia and they go all across the world. But they've done testing in Bahrain, the practice in Bahrain, and the race in Bahrain. So clearly Red Bull are very good in Bahrain. So we'll see where this kind of develops. I think after a couple of races we'll know for sure. I think it's definitely too early to say it's going to be a 2-horse race because we don't know if Red Bull are good anywhere else. Because obviously they've tested in the same track and they've done everything in one track, and it's clear that Red Bull, they're a better car just about. Hamilton is just, you know, ridiculous. That's why he won the race, but Red Bull should have won the race. You know, if Verstappen had probably held off for a little bit, he would have just had him in the last 3 races. So that's, you know, he's young. He again, it's one of those things that the experience of Hamilton, who's 36, I think now. He knows what he's doing at this point, and it's going to be, like I said, like I've been saying, banging on about it, as advertised. Definitely worth watching. I'm excited for it. Everyone seems to be, you know, very excited. And everyone else, the battle in the middle was close as well. All the other teams were very, very close. Verstappen's teammate he broke down on the way to the grid. His car broke down. He was about to retire the car, and then he kept his calm, restarted it, got to the grid. He had to start at the very, very back. He ended up coming 5th. So that's going to be interesting with the two. Now Verstappen's got a good teammate. So Perez clearly has proved. All the other teammates Verstappen's had the last 3 years or 4 years would not have been able to do the same thing that Perez did. So Perez and Verstappen are going to be good. Bottas, Hamilton's teammate, came 3rd. 40 seconds behind. So Hamilton and Verstappen were gone. Then Bottas was next, 37 seconds down the line. So I think it's clear, it's clear that who the best drivers are, and it's noticeable because they're, the two teams, they've got the same car more or less. The setups are, minor differences, but it's clear that Verstappen and Hamilton are going to be going head to head, and it's going to be, experience is going to be key. I think Verstappen will learn, and it's going to be very exciting. So very, very interesting weekend, and we've got a couple of weeks off now. So a couple of weeks off from this now, and we'll Formula One on the chat for a couple of weeks. But the season's going to be very interesting. It's going to be, well worth watching. So that's that. Appreciate all the really do appreciate all the love, all the feedback. Like, subscribe, share with your mates. See you next week.